Okay, let's just talk about it. There is a possibility that this summer, Mo Salah leaves Liverpool. The man who is currently one of the best players in the world, sets all the records at Liverpool Football Club, and is currently the Premier League's top scorer, is not happy with his contract right now, and thinks he deserves more. And frankly, I think no one can really deny that Mo Salah deserves high figures in terms of what his contract is, being one of the best players in the world, being the guy who literally has such a great record at Liverpool that he becomes one of the undeniable greats of all time. And also just within the market that we exist in right now, which, let's remember, everyone's very aware of in modern football, this guy could go and command a wage somewhere else, which is much, much higher than what he currently gets at Liverpool. But would he go somewhere else and be a legend somewhere else? I think considering what he's done at Liverpool, that kind of makes it a bit tricky. And that's partly what Jurgen Klopp kind of warned Felipe Coutinho about at one point. Stay here, there'll be a statue for you. Go somewhere else, and, well, you know, you'll be another one of those players that pass through the club, like Real Madrid, where David Beckham's been, where Ronaldo's been, where Zidane's been, where you've got Di Stefano staying over all that. You've even got Benzema. There are loads of people who pass through that club, and frankly, they will be up in the tapestry, but that tapestry is so thick with history, or at least they like to paint it that way, that it makes you think, well, how big am I in their history? Whereas at Liverpool, I do feel like there is still something there where you go, you know, you are genuinely one of our favourite players of all time. He's definitely one of my favourite players of all time. I love what Mo Salah has done culturally and on the pitch at Liverpool. But that doesn't deny then that he does deserve a huge contract. And there are plenty of analysts out there, not least some of my close friends, who say, if you look at his stats, these are going to be very difficult to replace statistics. And that is essentially how FSG will be looking at this. If you've got a guy out there who does this, how can you make that up if you have to replace him? And if you don't replace him, how do you change the team to get around that? And is that even possible with someone like Mo Salah? Does he also make the rest of the team better? And so is it worth paying that contract? Because on the pitch, he draws so much attention away from the likes of Trent and Hendo, or, you know, Harvey Elliott on that side, or even draws a defence over so it gives Mane so much more space, or Jota space to run into, or Firmino has great runs with him and great passes with him. Can you really just measure a man in goals and assists? No. And that's kind of my point here, is the Mo Salah element of this Liverpool system. How easy is that to change that out? Because, you know, there were doubts about whether Luis Diaz would fit in well at Liverpool, but he's pretty much hit the ground running. And Mane has been freed up in so many other ways to go out there and become a striker or a deep-lying playmaker just behind those, not deep-lying in the midfield, but you get what I mean, deep-lying striker in the midfield. And I kind of like him in that role. And exploring that is fun. And you wonder whether you can explore that with Mo Salah at this point. I don't know if that's possible. But I also wonder whether Liverpool are kind of looking at it and going, well, there are other options out there. And we believe that these guys fit this exact profile that Mo Salah hit when he came to the club. So why don't we replace him and see how long it takes those other people to get to that point? Because let's face it, if you want 500,000 or 300,000 or whatever, we're going to have to break our wage structure. And not only does that change things for him, but it also changes things massively for everyone else at the club. Virgil van Dijk, Mane, even Jordan Henderson, the types of these huge captain figures who will say, well, if he's worth that, what am I worth? And at that point you think, well, maybe it's worth signing someone then who's worth 50 million, because over the lifetime of these contracts, we'll spend 60 or 80 or whatever it is. And I get that logic, if I'm honest. But at the same time, I don't want to see Mo Salah leave my football club, a player that I love, a player that I have a trust for. So when I see him on the ball, I don't get frustrated. When I see him on the ball, I think there's a chance here, rather than, well, let's see what he does this time. And I think fan bases go through these cycles with the clubs just as much, right? Like, you've basically got an opportunity to trust someone or roll the dice. And I understand, like, you know, people say, I think it was Fabrizio Romano last night who said, oh, well, you know, this guy has had contract talks that are broken down since December. And he's now very frustrated, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, of course, contract talks haven't been on at one point since December, because Mo Salah went to the African Cup of Nations. Of course he's not around the club to talk. Of course his agent probably isn't around the club to talk. There's plenty of other people going to other places. I understand that. But then you look at what FSG have done at other places, and you look at what their model is, like I've spoken about before. And I personally think that those guys will think, we got rid of Mookie Betts, who was one of the best MLB players, if not the best MLB player, at the time we got rid of him, or moved him on, shall we say. He wanted a bigger contract. We rode that one out. Do you know what happened in that point? Is there were members of the press who, I don't think they were briefed to say bad things, but those people were told things which weren't necessarily favourable about Mookie. And the city of Boston got quite frustrated with the whole hierarchy at the club because they started saying things like, well, you guys don't want him here. And if I'm honest, I think FSU probably would have said, well, he breaks our wage structure. He goes against what we want to achieve here in terms of the size of player and the wages of those players. And we'd love to be able to pay these people this amount of money, but we believe we can still take you guys to a final, or we can still take you guys to a World Series, or whatever you want to be in. And that must have been very frustrating at that point for the fans, because I think the fans build up relationships with people and become sentimental about people. But they moved Mookie Betts to the LA Dodgers. And when they were moving him on, it didn't feel great at the time. A lot of people said, well, this shows the status of this team is not what it should be. You know, they can't keep Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts needs to be moved on. Well, these guys should move on themselves. I'm unhappy with the owners. And if I'm honest, I think if Liverpool moved on Mo Salah, there would be a lot of noise from the fan base that would say the same. And it wouldn't just be noise, it would be very reasonable chat. Do we not deserve better than this? Do we, as fans, have we built this club up to a certain level at this point that we should be seeing the best players week in, week out? We shouldn't have to be watching people that we think, well, this guy deserves a chance. We want to see the best entertainment. We want to be the biggest and the best club in the world. Not in the way that Real Madrid and Barcelona do, but these people want to stay with us because of how it feels. And also because we can afford to pay them because we've got so much cash floating around from all these different deals that our success is bringing us. But as we haven't won the Premier League more than once in the last few years, as we haven't won the Champions League more than once in the last few years, and we have had deep runs, I get that, which will have given us money. Do Liverpool fit the profile of club that Mo Salah might see him finishing his career at? Do they have a profile of player there in Mo Salah who says, I want to be paid big money, I want to finish my career on big money, and frankly, I've earned enough with you guys in the Premier League and the Champions League that I deserve that amount either here or somewhere else. And I've had a great time here, but I can now move on. I think a lot of the fan base would say, you know what, if you want to move on and get bigger wages somewhere else, we can forgive that. But it's difficult to then forgive the owners. It's not me saying that I wouldn't, sort of go with the owners on that or go with what the model is, because if you go with the model, it's not necessarily going with the owners. But then there's the other side of, well, what's best for the club? And is paying the highest wages to this player and therefore other players the best for the club? If it means that a number of players are going to leave and we can't replace those guys, then sure, no. And if those guys have ridden the wave of emotional as long as they can, and they think they now deserve double, triple, whatever, and that's not going to be paid by the club, then the only thing I can do as a fan is not only support the players, but also support the club in their decision. There's a lot of different ways to go here. And I get it, there's a lot of press briefings. You read the Echo and you see, well, Mo Salah wants to go, or Mo Salah actually wants to leave, or, he doesn't want to leave, but he hopes to stay. Can you facilitate that? That must be very frustrating for Mo Salah as a player, because I get every interview he does, I think he wants to make it abundantly clear, I want to stay at this club. He's happy at a club where a manager values him as a person, a manager values him for his values, a manager values him for his religion, a manager values him for what he does on the pitch, and he feels well loved there. Will he get that somewhere else? And is it worth rolling the dice? And let's not forget, just for us, but for him as well. I'll be interested to see what you guys think. There is a lot of stuff floating around about Mo Salah leaving right now. I'd love to know whether you guys would be willing to let him move on, how you would feel if he did move on, and how it would paint the owners of this club if he did move on. Is this a strong decision like Philip Coutinho, or is it a decision where, well, it's difficult to move on from that? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys later for a match review. Much love. See you in a little while. Have fun. Bye.